So I'm doing a story time. Um, Basically, this is about my vlogging days when I used to vlog. So it's gonna get up to the vlogging days, but back before when me and my ex had broken up, I had a brother, and this is leading up to my vlogging days because this is how I met the person that went through my vlogs. I used to make videos on my computer, and I didn't post them, but like they were pretty damn good. Like if I posted them, like you guys would be watching them for days. And it was more of a way for me to just kind of dissect how I was feeling and just to get it out of my system. It was therapeutic. I didn't post them to YouTube. I just left them on my computer. I didn't even go back and re-watch them. So anyway, my bro, I had met one of my best friends, my brother. Unfortunately, we don't keep in contact anymore. That's another story. But when I met him, he came from across the street at the state school. I went to a private school, and it was like me, him, and a bunch of white kids hanging out. And he asked me for my number, and so that I could braid his hair, because he wanted somebody that could braid his hair. You know, he had hair and stuff, and he's like, you know, and I said, no, I'll take your number. The reason I did that was because I had just got out of like a horrible relationship, like of 4 years. And I was like, I'm not trying to have no games from nobody. I don't want nobody hitting me up. Like, you know, even if you do want your hair braided, I didn't want it to turn into something else. Like, I'm like, I don't want no boyfriend. I don't want no nothing. Don't even get close. No. So anyway, I took his number. Not stupid, but I took his number, not thinking like, if he ever wants his hair braided, like how is he gonna contact me if I have his number? But anyway, I took his number. I ended up hitting him up one day, and I think I was like looking for, this is back in my college days, so you know, we was experimenting with marijuana and stuff like that, you know, whatever. And I think I called him for that, and he was like, yeah, you know, that's fine. You do my hair. I'll get you what you want. And I was like, okay, cool. So I just had this vibe that he was a real cool person, and he was. And ever since then, we have been hanging out, and he kind of was like really like, kind of like a person I could tell what had happened to me, what I had been through for the past 4 years, and that's another story time video. The relationship was extremely unhealthy that I had been in before. So needless to say, my friend was out there, and he was kind of like, he got into a fight with my ex, who was kind of stalking me. Not really stalking me, but like, he was trying to find an opportune time, I guess, to cause a ruckus. And so he ended up fighting with my friend. We had all went to the club one day, and we were so drunk. Like, we were so drunk. And it's so crazy that my ex kind of caught us when we was drunk, and he probably knew, like, because we had all been at the same school, and he had been there too. So like, I'm pretty sure he had seen us around. But he picked that day, and my friend was so drunk, my brother, and he just walked up to him, and he's like, oh, he goes, I think I might have told Leandre that was him. And he walked up to him, and let's just call my ex Frog. So Frog walks up to my brother, and he's like, where you from? And my brother's like, yo, I'm from so and so. I'm from, you know, I don't even know what he said, because I was thinking like, you from there? Like, I didn't even know that. And then my brother's like, where you from? And he's like, I'm from so-and-so. I'm this and that. And then the next thing I know, I guess that was translation. I'm sizing you up, trying to figure out a little bit about you so I can know. Because if a nigga say, oh, I'm from Rikers, you gonna run. So Frog is like, oh, I'm from so-and-so. Next thing I know, bonk, he hits him right here. He hits my brother right in the jaw. And they just start wrestling and punching each other, and the police get called, right? And so the police came, and they took him to jail. And the police where I went, they were so dirty. They like my ex Frog because Frog played football, and he was really good. He had broken records at the school and everything. I think one record he broke, and while he was running, he pulled his hamstring like in the middle of the race, and he still won, and he still broke the record. And you could tell when he was running when he pulled his hamstring, because he kind of started limping, and he just kept going. And I was like, oh. So the school and the police love him. And so this is something I want to point out, because a lot of times the justice system takes it easy on people of that caliber, because they have the potential to make a lot of money, and they could raise the value of the city. They could bring a lot of fame to the city. You understand? Like, you know, Melo's from Syracuse. I'm pretty sure Syracuse was nothing before Melo got there, you know, but he brought a lot of fame to Syracuse, a lot of traffic, a lot of tourists, this and that. A lot of more athletes came there because they thought, you know, if he made it here, then I can make it here, right? So anyway, the reason I'm telling you that is because although they had both gotten into a fight, they ended up pressing charges on my brother because they took tape and they lined his pockets, and they found weed crumbs in his pockets. Weed crumbs, okay? I'm not talking about a blunt. I'm not talking about a bud. I'm talking about some damn weed crumbs. They hated him just because he had fucked up my ex. So they took him to jail, and you know, he had been going back and forth to jail. He had been doing some things he had no business doing anyway. So I think the only reason he went to jail. And so anyway, to make a long story short, me and him were really best friends after that. And the reason why I kind of hung out with Dre was because my brother, he protected me, and I hung out with a bunch of dudes then. So anyway, this is how I meet the person that broke into my blogs. So Dre ended up introducing me to my new group of friends at State, because he went to State, so he hung up around a lot of State people. He knew so many people at State. And he introduced me to this one guy who ended up being my boyfriend later, like a year or two later. And we'll just call him, I don't want to call him something y'all going to figure out who he is. We can just call him Fred. We're going to call him Fred. So anyway, he introduced me to Fred and a couple other people, and we just was hanging out. We was having so much fun. And it's like, even though I went to a private school, I had a pocket of friends everywhere. I had a pocket of like my little country friends at the private school, and I loved hanging out with them so much. They taught me a lot. The vibe, everything, just the love, the support. No matter who you are or where you go, it's good people. And that's where you really learn it. So they you know, and then I had like a pocket of friends that I'm still friends with till this day. Another pocket of friends, City Girls. And so anyway, at State, he introduced me to a couple of people. Now, my brother ended up going to jail behind everything that had happened with the cops lining his pockets and some other stuff that he had did. And although him and my ex were kind of cut from the same cloth in the sense that they did the same thing, you know, as far as drugs was, you know, related. They both kind of, you know, dealt with greenery. I mean, everybody in college really smoked. So, I mean, it wasn't nothing like, you know, everybody would, that's where you experiment. So they took him to jail. And so I was kind of like at a loss, because I'm like, my friend is gone. My other friend was gone too. Like, all my little group of friends I used to hang around was gone, left school, or. So I started hanging out with Fred and all of his friends that my brother had introduced me to. And I think they seen me outside one day and they was like, hey, y'all look at this truck done got caught up under the dang thing, y'all. See, this is some stuff right here. You see some every day around here. So anyway, he had introduced me to Fred, and I started hanging out with Fred, and I would go to his house and everybody would be there. And then Fred had a car, so I didn't have a car. I didn't care about walking down to where he lived, and he would start taking all of his friends around here and there. We would go to the lake. We got into the lake, a bunch of city kids, and was like, what? And eventually he started to like me, and he started to just want to hang out with me. And at first it was kind of like just friends, and then I remember this is so messed up, y'all. I remember so at the beginning when he was liking me, we were kind of figuring out, okay, we're gonna date. So right before we started to date, he had taken me to this club. We wasn't in no relationship or anything. He took me to the club, and I had kind of been talking to someone else, and it wasn't to me I was taking the person seriously because of the rumors I had heard about that person. So I wasn't really taking him seriously at all. How guys hear oh, that girl's a hoe, that girl's a pop. Well, this guy, I heard the same thing about him, and I'm like, I'm definitely not taking you seriously. We were just messing around, just to keep it frank. And so at the time, I was talking to Fred, and I was taking his feelings more seriously, but at the same time, I wasn't too sure on what I wanted to do. I had never kissed him. He had never been into my room. I didn't invite dudes into my room because I'm like, I don't trust college dudes. After my first one that was so unhealthy and violent towards me, I would never trust another guy and never put anything past him. So I was like, from now on, no, I would never invite anybody into my room, nothing, unless I was sure, if I had already, you had already been in my apartment, with me and my ex, if I felt like you was cool, and I knew, people that I would invite to my room, I knew them for a couple of years. So it was like that. So anyway, I had went to the club. The guy that I had been messing with, he also went to the club. I guess he found out, and this is around the time that school was out, so everybody was not going to the club in our town because nobody was there. We was going to a town over. So I don't know how the dude I was messing with found out, because he didn't really deal with Fred, my friend Fred, and his group of friends, right? So I have been making vlogs about everything that I have been going through, about Fred, about the guy I was messing with, and everything that I had found out about him, how he was just scandalous, and he don't even deserve a name in this video because it's not really about him. And he's, he did what he was allowed to do, and I'm not going to speak on that. Everybody makes mistakes. It's in the past. So I made videos about that whole situation, and the situation was crazy. And I made a video about how I had went out with my friend Fred at the time, and how I had ran into the guy I was messing with, and he was I had ran into him. And so I didn't really speak to him because I'm I'm not really dealing with you like that. You not, unfortunately, it's not serious to me at all. We never said that we was going to be whatever. To be frank, everything that happened between me and him was kind of an accident. It was just you had too much to drink type situation. And that's just what it was. And so I just was oh, whatever. So I made a video about that, I made a video about a bunch of stuff, like so much stuff. I made videos about personal stuff. And at the time when I made the videos, me and Fred weren't dating. But that same night that he took me to the club, when we came back from the club, as I was at my door, getting ready to go in, I think he walked me to the door. I think he kind of asked to come in, maybe not, but in any event, he kissed me. And it wasn't a kiss that was like, I was like waiting for it. He just like did it. And I think that was his way of telling me like, I like you. And I was like, but anyway. I told you I was still talking to the guy. And so it put me in a weird predicament, because I'm like I take your feelings into consideration because you're my friend, and I know that you really like me, and I could tell. I hadn't heard nothing bad about him at all. So I'm like, I wasn't really attracted to Fred because of my mindset just wasn't where it needed to be, y'all. It was so stuck on what I had seen previously. So I can't park there. I'm looking for a park. But anyhow, me and Fred ended up dating, and I stopped talking to the other guy. As I got serious with Fred and he told me he really liked me, I started to grow feelings for him. A lot of feelings. Like I really genuinely liked him. Anyway, 5 months into me and Fred dating, Fred goes through my computer and he finds all the vlogs, and he's so pissed off. I mean, he is heated. He's heated. He's so mad. He had to call his sister, and his sister was like, this is before you. And I'm telling the business. I'm like, I'm going crazy on my thing. And I'm like, this was just, it was kind of like entertainment for me. It was like, I'm not really dating nobody. I'm not taking nobody serious, nothing like that. And I'm just going in, okay? I'm going in on, and he was just so angry with me. But we ended up staying together. We worked through it. And he was like, I can't believe you did this. And he's like, this is our first date. And this is what you do on our first date. And I was like, to me, it wasn't a date. And even if it was a date, like, I did not say that I was with you. I did not say that when you first go out on a date with somebody, you don't decide that y'all together, you can't see nobody else. Like, you don't make that decision for them. Y'all supposed to have a mutual agreement after a couple of dates, or whenever y'all decide that, I like you and I don't want you talking to nobody else. And do you feel the same way about me? Like, that's what happened with me and my fiance. Like, we dated for a couple of times, and then after a couple of dates, and after we had known each other for a little while, we had that conversation, and we was like, this is what's gonna happen. That's my story time. I gotta go. Love y'all.